Okay, from the top. Now, if you've ever been injecting yourself, injecting your pork and mixed up your injection real good, got into one of those little 16 or 18 gauge needles, and then you're a little intoxicated, and so you injected your finger instead of the pork, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button. The reason I bring that up is because our guest today has actually done that.
You can't put stuff in you, mate. You're not going to put in your body, I guess.
That's it. I think you actually said that after you did it. So for those of you who don't know, Mr. Jye Healey is joining us today on episode 4 of the Barbecue Project. And I just wanted to tell him, I was thinking about some of the experiences that we've had. And I was thinking about that one at the Royal last year in September, when Jye had a few drinks on the practice cook and it was injecting his pork butts and accidentally injected his finger. And I did see pork injection actually squirting out after the. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Spent the last week crook as a dog, but getting there. Back to probably 90% health.
Yeah, so I don't think I've ever seen you with a beard before, sporting a beard.
This is the isolation beard. People who say that keeping your beard's lazy, it's not. It's a lot more work keeping your beard than not keeping your beard, so it's starting to piss me off. But my thing was I'm not going to shave while this isolation happens. But I think it's probably, we'll see how that goes.
I got to say, it's looking pretty ratty, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. I did have it nicely trimmed up by a barber about probably 3 weeks ago, and now it's getting a bit ratty. So.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's the first time I've seen you with a full beard, if you can call that a full beard.
I never sport a beard, never. I'm always lazy. Like I'm probably like a week between shaving, but so there's always shadow, but there's never a beard. But I can't see me keeping it very much longer. It's starting to really tick me off a little bit. So.
And how does the wife like the beard?
She hates it. Completely hates it.
Hey, I haven't clean shaven with a razor for about 15 years, so she'll get used to it eventually. Just got to give her the opportunity.
Yeah.
She's in the background, isn't she? She's standing behind me, isn't she?
She can't hear you, though. It's all the earphones, so you're safe.
Oh, good stuff. All right. So, look, just wanted to have you on the show. You and I must talk every week at least, and
easy.
I thought actually you could be a bit of a regular guest. So this recording, guys, we're going to sit down with Jye Healey from Smokeface Grillahs, maybe relive a bit of the past, but also ask him a few things that have, a few rumours circulating. So I wanted to put an end to those rumours. And I also just think that he's someone who could regularly contribute, because me and him are already talking pretty regularly as it is, so why not hit record? Maybe we should call this show "Why Not Hit Record." I don't know. Anyway, so run us past. Where did it begin for you barbecuing? I don't believe you've ever told me where it began.
I kind of come across it. I listened to your other episode when you talked with Matt and you're saying about barbecue pitmasters. I discovered barbecue pitmasters after barbecuing. I was probably 28, 29. Just not long. I'd been married a few years, had a gas barbecue, and bought a rotisserie section for it. I then literally spent almost 6 months putting everything on the rotisserie that you could think of. Leg of lamb, I'd get on that rotisserie, it didn't matter what it was. That evolved into me getting a little, those little cast iron smoking boxes that you put on the gas barbecues.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think Brendan mentioned that he got into that. That's where he started smoking, was one of those.
So I started putting that in with the spit and on the barbecue all the time, and we'll cook them. And we went to a home show. One of our family friends does house stuff, and we went to a home show, and they had a Primo, the big ceramic Primo barbecue demonstrations there. And my old duck come past, and she's like, "You got to check out this barbecue. It'd be right up your alley." And I went past it, and I'm like, "Yep, definitely going to get one of those." Had a chat to him, had a look at it. And then I was about to turn, so that was probably 6 months prior to my birthday. I went to go and buy one, and they had them sitting there, but they didn't have the carts for them. And I'm like, "What am I going to do a barbecue without a cart?" Started looking around.
So this is basically a ceramic egg with no...
Yeah. just a ceramic keg. So then I ended up ordering a Big Joe from Barbecues Galore. Had to wait 3 months for it to come in. Came in right on pretty much my birthday on my 30th, and
Nice.
which is about 6 years ago now. And then from there, I smoked one set of ribs. Thought it was like the best thing in the world, 3-2-1 method, and I look back at it now and.
But where did you get this info on how to do the 3-2-1 method?
Everything was like wasn't a lot of information in Australia. Like at that stage, the Australian Barbecue Alliance was really in its beginning. Everyone online giving advice is probably learning as they went.
Approximately what year would this have been?
This would have been.
I mean, counting back to that birthday or whatever. What is
probably
it?
2014, I reckon.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't realise they got started so early. Sorry, I just got to wipe my eyes. I just saw myself in the camera and thought, holy cow. I know I didn't get much sleep last night, but jeepers. So 2014, You're already into it. So you're obviously getting your information off the internet or off Facebook or something,
Yeah, so I think off that stage, it was Amazing Ribs. I think it's Amazing Ribs.
Yeah,
that was probably, Meathead. That was a big source of information. I reckon YouTube videos, Barbecue Pit Boys, I think it was called. That was
right.
They're still going. Information back then. And then it was really just, it was more of a learning curve, if anything. You learned very quickly that what they were cooking over there, meat-wise, wasn't exactly the same as what we were cooking over here, per se. Good briskets, like in Australia now, you can literally walk into any butcher and get a high-end Wagyu off the shelf. We'd have to group buy high-end Wagyus with a guy called Peter, who had a catering business the other side of Melbourne, about an hour and 20 from my house. And I'd have to drive to Paran Market to go pick up just a grass-fed brisket. It was really hard to come by.
Who's your butcher down there at Paran Market? Was it
Gary's Meats?
Yeah, Gary's Meats, right.
Yeah.
For those who don't know Gary's Meats, jump on Instagram. There's Gary's Meats and there's Gary's Daughter's Meats. Which Gary's daughter, I've met him both last year when I was over in Melbourne doing some doing some stuff over there, and we did a Paran Market like meat challenge and bumped into Gary, and because they had Andrew's rubs on the side there, and I don't know what his daughter's name, but she hooked me up with a rub at the time because I didn't quite have enough money to meet the challenge, and awesome. We ended up going back there and spending an hour talking to them, and they showed us their dry age cabinet. And so if you ever around Paran, I guess it is, Paran Markets, duck in there and have a look at Gary's Meats and give him a like on Instagram. He's got some awesome stuff, and I believe his
daughter, amazing.
Yeah, she has her own channel on Insta. I don't know how to find it, but you'll find it if you look hard.
They're amazing people too, like really down to earth. Great people to talk to. Every time I reckon I went in there, you'd think you'd go in there and just buy a meat and you end up spending an hour chatting to them and then coming back in the day. So
they're like the craft butchers. They wear the business shirts and the little bow ties and all that, and they don't have any blood up their sleeves and all that. I think barbecuers could learn a lot from that. We're a messy bunch.
In saying that though, they've got a high-end market. I remember standing behind someone and making an order for $55, and some old lady ordering 2 steaks that was like $220, covered in gold. And she's it's a high-end part of town, mate.
Yeah, covered in gold dust.
Yeah, just a little.
So you're just basically grabbing a hold of anything you could find online, and excuse me, it's a bit later here. It's not as early there. I put my kids to bed an hour ago, so
yeah, we only just got out of bed.
So and then at what point? So coming back to Pitmasters, so then you went and looked it up on Netflix or something, or
it probably came even later in the piece again. So I guess we were kind of finding our own way. As I was finding my own way, I was cooking a lot at home. I reckon I was cooking ribs every weekend for almost a year. There's a butcher around the corner from us, an Asian butcher, and he always has baby back ribs. What he had in the window was Memphis style, and they're probably the only meat ribs you get here. And I reckon I cooked them every weekend for an entire year, just until I found my feet. And I look back at some of the photos and what I thought was amazing. And you really busting out your own way. But looking back at it, I think everyone goes through that evolution where you've got to find your own way. It doesn't matter what advice you get given. Sometimes I guess the learning curve is a lot smaller these days with a lot better advice, but it was a long learning curve. And
I don't know about that. Like I've thought a lot about that, and the problem with today is we've got too much information, and I guess one of the things we're lucky is we've on New Zealand Barbecue Pitmasters, and I'm sure it's the same in Australian Pitmasters, Australian Barbecue Alliance, and New Zealand Barbecue Alliance. We've got a few really reputable backyarder guys that are really helping to answer a lot of questions. I know Noel is, and you must know Noel, he's spent a bit of time competing in the early days, but one of the big things he's doing right now is putting up recipes and how-tos, and I think that information being available is just super important, and I'm sure he does nothing but that, because if you look at the stats every week, he's the top contributor with hundreds of responses. And
my whole theory of barbecue has evolved over the years, and for me now, the way I describe barbecue to people who are getting into it is that there's a destination, which is the same. When it's done, it's done. There's no, I prefer it this way. There's no, I prefer it that way. When it is done, it's done. But to get to that destination, there's 1,000 different ways to get there.
Now, what are you talking about there? You mean like the point of broad appeal? Is that what you're talking about? Where you've mastered a rib that appeals to everybody?
It's not even that. Tenderness is tenderness. Like there's taking ribs over and having them fall apart. But if you've cooked the perfect rib, it doesn't matter. If they like their ribs fall apart or not, I can guarantee you that if you cook the perfect comp rib,
yeah, they're going to hoover it up.
They're going to hoover it up no matter what. And then they'll probably realize that that's actually a better rib.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's kind of it's been an interesting journey, and I've never heard it articulated in the same way that you just did, but I think you're right on the money there, right?
Well, when you think about it, right? If I was to visit you in New Zealand now, there's many ways for me to get there, right? And it's not going to be a smooth sailing. I'm going to have a hiccup somewhere. Whether an Uber, I've typed in the wrong address and an Uber driver. Becoming a good pitmaster is about really managing that cook and managing whatever direction that piece of meat takes you. It doesn't matter if you wrap it late. Doesn't matter if you wrap it at all. But it's just managing whatever comes your way and then just getting to that final destination. And that's barbecue. It doesn't really matter. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. The destination's the same, and you make your own way there.
Yeah, and I guess what you're saying is in the early days of bad information or a lack of information, it was half the battle was trying to work out what was what. And, like I remember when I first tried to get brisket in New Zealand, the only place I could seem to find it from was a packer called Green Lee, which is down here in Hamilton. And, you go on there and say, hey, I want to get a brisket. And they go, well, do you want the point end or the navel end? I don't know. I don't know the difference. So I just said, just whatever, just give me the best one. I don't know. They didn't know what the best was either. So I ended up getting this navel end brisket, which I don't know if anyone's ever, so the brisket runs right up from like the collar of the beast and right down to, where the udder is or the mid, like that area. And they cut our briskets that we use, they cut them sort of where the ribs are coming in. Well, not where the ribs, but if let's say it's halfway, and we use the chest piece. That's why it's real thick like that. Has those two overlapping muscles. Anyway, what I bought was the lower half, so it was about that thick.
And there's like three
horrible
layers of meat through it.
Yeah, horrible piece of meat. And I stayed up all night cooking it, breathing in bad smoke, and I had a little cabinet smoker square. I don't even know, bought it off one day. And man, she was horrific. But we ate it and thought it was marvelous. But in hindsight, it was. My wife brought it up probably a month ago and said, "A bit better than what you used to cook." We're having a brisket.
I actually remember my first brisket. I remember my first brisket very distinctly. It was I reckon it weighed about just under 2 kilos, and it was a piece of flat that a butcher had kept aside to make. How they do rolled brisket.
Yeah.
So they roll them up.
Yeah.
They put I got that aside, and I refused it. Like I didn't want to buy a whole piece until I'd really. This is the whole stupidity of it. When really, if I'd just bought a whole brisket, it was a lot easier to manage. So I had this thing, and it was it looked like a shoe. It was that lean, seriously, just a piece of leather. And I cooked it on the Komodo. I followed the temperature, and I remember like listening to a lot of the American sites, and it was 198 Fahrenheit, 198 Fahrenheit. Cooked it to 198 Fahrenheit.
That's what your internal was to cook it.
Yeah. That was a lot of the advice you were getting was 198. wrapped it in a towel, put it in an esky. My wife was out that night, so I cut it up. And I remember as soon as I cut it, it looked like it was going to be tender. It kind of had a bit of a chew to it, but wasn't too bad. Then I cut the whole thing, and by the time she got home, I was like, "Oh, it's not too bad." And it was literally leather. Like it might as well have been chicken.
Right.
Like it was completely under. And then from there, so I only did a first brisket probably about after 7 months of just doing ribs flat out. And then I reckon I went on a brisket run, and I reckon I did about, without even exaggerating, I probably did a brisket probably every week or every second. It was like almost, you'd say a week and a half, because it wasn't every second week, but it was always like, it'd be probably 2 out of 3 weekends. And I probably did that for 6-7 months. We were just literally eating nothing but brisket in this household until I figured, literally got my head around it.
So, how many, I can't even remember how many briskets I've cooked now, but it's like several, probably in the 1,000. But how many briskets, just for the guy who's just starting out, how many briskets would you say, like just trial and erroring, getting familiar, would you say before you sort of start to gain any kind of competency?
In reality, it probably took me, even sometimes now, you're still looking for competency. Like not every cook's perfect, but I know what I'm looking for now. It probably took me, to be honest with you, probably a good 15 to 20 briskets to really get my head around it. I tried different types of briskets, grass-fed, grain-fed, stepped up to Wagyu. Obviously, Wagyu, straight away, it was like your cooking window on a Wagyu is so much easier than on a lean grass-fed brisket to get your head around. But I cut my teeth on grass-fed briskets, and I reckon it helped me with going that grain and then into the Wagyus as well. But yeah, it probably took 15, 20 to really start getting my head around it. And that's really like right now, you can go to a class. You can do a class at the Q Club. You can do a class with Kelly. You do them anywhere, right? And you can rock up and there's someone like myself or yourself, someone really good, and they'll be like, feel this. See that? And you're going to be going by feel.
Yeah.
Where you kind of had to learn that feel. And that's probably what took the longest, was learning what I thought when I might have overcooked it, then realized that I've actually nailed it. And then also back then, because of the lack of really assistance and knowledge, everyone was probably teething through it at the same time. The first brisket you cook and you think that it's dry, so you cook the next one less. Because that's the natural instinct, is that if something's dry,
I've
overcooked it. Where to get your head around the fact that if you've overcooked it, you've got pulled beef, and to have pulled brisket's better than have an undercooked brisket. So it's better to work.
Well, technically, removing the moisture is what's cooking it, right? So as you like in a steak, as you move from say medium rare to well done, you're just evaporating water. So yeah, right to some extent. But there's so many factors that go into it that it's hard to determine. Oh, look, I just cooked it a bit long. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't wrap it early enough. Maybe you didn't spritz it enough. Maybe you didn't use a water pan. Maybe there's 100 maybes.
Where that fat renders to that perfect texture. I think it becomes dry when there's not enough fat rendered, and it becomes quite clumpy and laggy on the taste. But you're right, there's a lot of variables, and that's part of that. My whole barbecue theory changed. There's one destination and 1,000 different routes, 1,000 different hiccups, and you just got to make your own route, your own hiccup, and you get to it where you get when you get there.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I tend to agree with it, but I mean, we are kind of blessed and lucky these days that we've got access to materials where we're not just sort of reading some nutters I think there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of ideas in barbecue that are just the status quo, if you like, where people just who got told something but never thought to explore beyond that. And I think, like, you can read a book so much. You can read Meathead's book, very good book. You can read Franklin's book, great book. And you can read online all day. But ultimately, I think it comes down to actually handling the protein, sticking the thermopen in, tasting it when it's done, and figuring out, experience is really the only teacher that's going to get you to that real high level of great barbecue. I don't think you might fluke it from time to time, but I think one of the things that makes it good, and this is, I guess, why we do comps, because we want to test ourselves and compare ourselves relative to others, but you only get good at it by doing it a lot.
Here's the thing too, right? Comps, like, I'm all for home cook. I was the best cook in my backyard. And when I was the best cook in my backyard, I thought I was the best cook in the entire world as well.
Yeah.
Until I entered into the comps. And I'm not here telling you that because I do comps or you do comps, you're a better cook than the person in the backyard. That's not true. But your learning curve into what's good is a lot faster because you realise that what you're cooking at home really probably isn't great.
I think it's like what you said before. It's you don't really know how good you can get it until you actually put under conditions where you have to push the envelope. And a lot of the stuff we try at comps to get ahead and get the little margin is stuff that you'd never try in your backyard or you'd never focus on it. And I feel like if you're not under the pressure cooker, then you're not going to put yourself to, unless you put yourself in that pressure cooker, you're not going to rise up. You're going to probably do really well, but something about being in the pressure cooker that makes you exceed beyond what you thought possible.
I think I agree with that too. It's like
Do you think Michael Jordan plays better at home on his home court or better when he's, because
but he's challenged.
He's playing better when he's going up against the Lakers or whoever's,
I think this is the thing though, where you got to put into it. You're either got a competitive mentality or you don't too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Look, it's not for everyone.
I'm very driven competitively. I hate losing.
Yeah.
I'd have what you call tantrums when things don't go my way at times.
I've heard about those.
You've seen them. What do you mean heard about them?
Yeah, that's all right. Guy's a funny dude. I think I've probably cooked with you guys as much as I have anyone. Meaning, like I like to learn from others. I'm a big advocate of learning from others, and I really believe if you're gonna get really good, you have to be prepared to learn from the best that there are. And for sure, I class you guys as. I mean, you guys finished up second last season and.
Third last season, second year before.
Yeah, so you guys are, in my mind, you're if not the most consistent team, one of the most consistent teams in terms of track record. Maybe Big Smoke's up there with you, but
Lucas as well.
Yeah, there's a few of you guys, and if you want to become great like you guys, and I consider you guys to be great cooks, then you have to get out there and learn. You're not gonna. What I mean is cooking at home in your backyard or being online, you ain't going to stumble across some secret, right? Because the truth is there probably are no secrets. What you've got to do is you've got to go out there and try and taste and experience a much broader range of barbecues so that you actually start to learn, oh, well, that's what my cooking's lacking, right? You don't realize how good the Ferrari is if you stay in a Camry, but all you do is read about Ferraris. You got to actually go get in the thing and drive it and go, whoa, that's so much better.
Well, I guess that's what comp enables for a lot of people too, is that like you've come across and you've cooked with us, and I've cooked with other people too, but you're also, like when we were starting out, we had Badass, we had the Shank Brothers, we had there was quite a few good teams. There was the Meat Sweats, and you'd literally just try and taste their stuff. Comp people always love handing out their leftovers, especially if they're really good. And you get a real feel for what tenderness they're putting out, what flavors they're putting out. You can take it to the next level and do judging as well. But just being around all those guys and cooking next to people and talking barbecue, like myself and yourself almost cook barbecue every week, and every week I knew and you probably get something from me because you know what, we still haven't perfected it ourselves. So,
how many times have we cooked together? Like, how many times have I cooked something or you, and we're like, get on the phone and hey, I tried this or I did that, and I just cooked a badass brisket, and we send photos to each other of little clips and videos, and you get more perspective the more you talk and you see good barbecue, and you go, hey, guess what I just tried, and it made a little bit of difference here or there, and collective learning, I think, is a big part of barbecue progression.
I think that's a big thing too, and I think like when you first get into it, you think you own every secret and you guard those secrets.
Yeah.
It's when you kind of evolve and realize that I could write down, like the three, James, Justin, and me could write, and Chris even now, we could write you our map about what we do from point to point. Doesn't mean you can get the same result as us, because what we do is very formulated for us. But you share ideas. Like I'll take something from you and you'll take something from me, but you adapt it into the way that you want to cook, and that's barbecue. It's not necessarily still like I obviously got the cook Dan from Big Smokes, one of my best mates, and I got the chance to cook with him, obviously, at Meat Stock New Zealand, and we've never cooked with each other before. We know how each other cooks, but we've never seen each other firsthand. We've never cooked next to each other. Oh, we cooked next to each other at comps, but Dan's a very guarded person when it comes to a lot of his stuff. And I'll tell you.
I mean, like you said, you work hard for your recipes, so you feel like, oh, I've got to keep that little edge, you know. And I mean, I kind of see both ways. I think there is some intellectual property in terms of some of the processes, but I don't think that, like, people focus too much on what rub's old mate using. Oh, Brendan, what rub are you using to win meat stock? The truth is, there's 100 things that go into a good cook, and the rub is one of them, and there's 99 other things, and if you don't get those right, then the rub ain't going to make a damn bit of difference to your cook.
Well, cooking's there's one thing that makes a good cook, and that only comes with time, and that's consistency. And that consistency you need to build with your team. You need to find your place. You need to find. Me and you have had this discussion many times. You get that synergy within your team, and you start building that consistency. And once you've got that consistency, then you start building off that. You worry about the other stuff afterwards. I've tasted what I've thought was some horrible flavors. I've told people that I thought their flavors are one-dimensional, and they've gone on to win a brisket trophy. I'll be brutally honest, and I stand by that call. But you know what? In reality, 99% of barbecues are tenderness game, and that essentially that's what gets you there.
Yeah, I agree. I've given my opinion to people. Oh, yeah, I don't think that was very good, and they've beat us, and I'm not. That doesn't change my opinion. I still didn't like it, but that's not to say I liked ours better. But and I guess that's one thing that's really for us in our progression in terms of More Better Barbecue. And I'm just throwing that name out there for Derek Paul, because I know he loves the sound of it. But for More Better Barbecue, there it is again, Derek.
So I would have worn my shirt tonight, but
yeah, come on, bro.
Action. I lost it. I lost it in the meat stock.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, I got
what?
I got it pretty under the radar. I actually cooked it that night, and then it went missing by the time I woke up the next morning. So.
Didn't you take a bunch back for the boys? Anyway, we're getting sidetracked.
No, they took one.
My trick before you derailed me was like you get, frick, I've lost it. You what are you talking about? All I can think about is you, that damn shirt. That was a nightmare that weekend. Anyway, guys. Yeah, I think like you said, everyone has to find their little spot, and if we go back to the long room, and I've talked to you about this, and I've talked to a few people about this, and I think you mentioned on Smoking Hot Confessions, but. Look, a bit of history for us is the first time let's go to the first time that we met each other, which was we cooked the Invitational up in Sydney there.
Hold on, that's not the first time that's not the first time we met you.
Oh, sorry,
you're the first time you met. You don't remember, Jesus.
Okay, so the first time I met him. Look, I gotta just say this. I'm mentally very, I need some of that on stuff that Joe Rogan promotes. But anyway, I'm mentally shot. I've got a horrible memory, and apparently, and I actually have gone back and looked up the photos, and it is true that I did Pit Boss Live, and it must have been not last year, but the year before, so 2018. Yeah, I hosted Pit Boss Live in March in Melbourne, and they had 4 teams who did Pit Boss Live and handed in platter entries, and Smokeface Grillahs was one of them. Hadn't met you guys at that point, and to be fair, didn't know the first thing about Australian barbecue. I knew Lucas.
To be fair, the only thing that Big Mo went missing in action, and you decided to step in, and everyone else gave us 10s, and the arsehole gave us a 9. We don't forget. Not that we hold a grudge.
Yeah, right. So okay, all right. Well, calm down.
But more to the point, I think we got an RGC that weekend, and you came over and shook our hand and had a chat to us for 10 minutes, and doesn't remember a single thing about that conversation.
Oh, look, I can remember it, but only because you bring it up. Now, really, the first time we met, which in my mind was the first time we actually met, was that I was competing at the Invitational up in Moore Park in 2000, and later that year, 2018. and we had formed a bit of a ragtag team of myself, Matt Flanagan, I think Grant Fitzgerald and Shane might have been there. Anyway, we competed as a Q Cartel. It was sort of the last time I cooked with those boys, even though they didn't come. Figure that out. Anyway, Cav, who's a legend, he offered to lend us a Cambro, and he transported that Cambro up to Sydney in your guys' trailer. And I came and found you guys. Oh, look for the big trailer. Yeah, okay, where are they? All right, these guys have got my Cambro. So, hey, do you have a Cambro? Yeah. Here you go, bro. Open it up. No Cambro trays. We didn't have any foil ones either. But so I had to borrow some of those off you guys. But I got to know you there and thought to myself, man, these boys are legends, And you had the Myron, and you just got your trailer, and your guys were all piled in the back, gave me the tour of the trailer. So that was kind of, I don't know, I guess the start of something, because we've...
The start of a friendship.
I think we've been...
Really...
Well, no, because you guys won that weekend.
Yeah, and then you were... I remember we went up for our... as we were walking to the stage, obviously we'd actually won a few comps coming into that. Hence probably why you remember who we are by that stage. But we covered up, and you and I had done a T-shirt swap.
Yeah, that's right.
And you had your Q Cartel shirt over the top, and you opened up a few buttons and showed underneath. And you're like, I'm covering up if you get a call. And we were like, we don't give a shit. So I think
it was actually your idea, bro. I was like, look, I got my shirt on, and you were like, come up.
Yeah, and then
what else?
We got our first call up, which I think was might have been second place ribs, and you were sitting there. And you had your shirt on, and you go like this, and you pretended to take your shirt off to come up. And I was like, "Come up, who gives a shit? Come up!" And we didn't care. And next thing you know, you're on stage for. I think we got 4 call-ups that weekend, and the GC. Our photo of us winning the championships got Jared holding the trophy with us.
Everyone comes up to me and say, "I didn't know you cooked with those boys," and I was like, "Yeah, I didn't know I did either."
I guess that's the thing, though. We never take barbecue too seriously. Like, we're highly competitive, don't get me wrong, and we go to every comp thinking we're going to win and want to win. But at the same time, we're very, very much don't take it that seriously, and that's part of the fun. Like, I think that memory is funny. For me, it's almost as fun.
Bro, that was, I need to get that printed up and put on my wall. It was hilarious because all the official photos had me in there.
Yeah. And
I noticed I didn't get a ring, though.
We had our 4th member we had to drive it back for, but otherwise you probably would have stolen that as well.
Yeah, that was funny. And then I guess we'd friended up each other and got, like just been introduced to each other properly that weekend, and thought you guys were legends for just the whole call up thing and blah blah blah. And then you guys, I guess you must have messaged me and said, "Hey, we're thinking about coming to the long room," or we'd been drawn out of the ballot. Or
the next one was the whole what I'd call the Kangaroo Valley incident, where we were in 2nd place and really close to taking out 1st.
Oh, that's okay. So that's
Kangaroo
right.
Valley was the last comp of the year, and the promoter wanted a shootout, and it arranged a shootout.
That's
and
right.
You couldn't write down the shit that happened in that period. Like, if I wrote it down, you wouldn't believe it. But stuff to where Adam Roberts gave.
Look, I don't want to get into the weeds here. I just want to be very careful.
No. But yeah, I'm not getting into it. But I was more when I say calamity, the promoter asked him for my number, and he gave him a Jye of a different number, and the dude who answered the phone call on time, he wasn't interested. He come that weekend was the Jye in Port Macquarie who installs clotheslines, like the Jye from Smokeface Grillahs. So there was a whole
I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, there's a whole honey stuff, and without getting too much into it.
So you end up in New Zealand, right? Because basically,
we got a phone call from yourself. I think you were sitting down with Jay at the time, and you were talking, and we bought all our meat for that comp, and everything had fallen through. And you're like, "Boys, why don't you come to New Zealand?" And we'd just come off a fair, what I'd call winning a big stack of cash out of the Invitational, and we were like, you know what? We might as well.
Let's do it.
We've got our meet. You invited us down. It was almost the easiest trip in the world. We literally just got ourselves there, and you had everything arranged for us. So
now, was that the long room? Was that Big Boys Toys? That was Big Boys Toys. Yeah. So I remember that because I just felt like you guys had really helped us out in Moore Park. So I was just like, hey man, I'll give back where I'm a Lannister. I hate owing people and I always pay my debts, but So we just rocked up, and I remember I'm like, the day before the comp, I'm like, dude, where's this list of stuff? Where's this list? And you're like, oh, pits and some barbecue fuel. So I bought up what I thought you needed, ended up putting it all in your site, and you guys ended up sitting on top of it. And I was like, well, that was a freaking waste of time bringing all that stuff. But yeah, so that was your first experience cooking on the little octo pit backyard of 4. You come off this huge Myron Mixon catering rig, and then you go and cook. You cook on a little backyard.
We were very lucky. We were very lucky because you gave us shit, and anyone who came past that whole weekend trying to tell them that we're cooking as a caterer this weekend, not as a comp team.
Yeah, and I think you ordered about 8 pork butts or something stupid.
I think it was 5 or 4.
Seemed like a lot. It seemed like a lot at the time.
And then we completely undercooked them. Yeah, we were lucky because we had the hand-ins on the both days. So those little octo pits were a great rig, but I don't think they were really used to what we were doing. And
well, I think at that point, see, I'd always cooked at about 250, 275 tops, and at that point, I'd never even heard of hot fast. And you guys come over, and you're used to cooking at something like 300, 350. I think you even had it at 350 at one point.
We had it up at 350.
So when we designed the pit and worked out the airflow and CAD and all that, we designed it to sort of hold temperature at 275. So I'd never seen an octo pit go that hot, and
we did burn half a forest of your timber.
Yeah, I mean, I bought enough wood. I bought enough wood for 3 teams to cook, and I think you had burnt most of it by sort of 2 o'clock. But you guys cranked it out. You had a water pan bubbling away, and I think that's where it got the H2Bro.
Yeah,
H2Bro octo pit. But it's funny because that sort of opened my eyes. I remember at Moore Park, at the Invitational the year before, I met Sterling Smith, legend of a man. Shout out to Sterling Smith, and
one of the greats, mate.
And he does great rubs and stuff, and I think he's just brought out some sauces. Anyway, I'd sort of seen him cooking on the trash cans, and I knew the Jokers had cooked on the trash cans. But you guys showed up, and like I remember calling you guys and going like, "Bro, you guys are right," or like, "Did you sleep in?" or whatever. I think it was 7 o'clock in the morning.
So we had
8 o'clock in the morning.
We had chicken and lamb handed on the Friday, and then it was ribs, pork, and brisket on the. Sorry, it was a Saturday.
Sunday was those other 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did the first 2 cook on the Saturday. Then we cooked because you guys actually get spoilt with American ribs, and we hadn't cooked with American ribs before at that stage. We got a couple of extra acts, and we did a practice cook that night. Then took over your area.
Got everyone trashed.
Yeah, get it. Doing picklebacks. Had a mean old time.
Remember, we did Wagyu burgers with all our trim as well. We had Sure Wagyu burgers. Yeah, sure burgers.
And then we went back to the hotel room. We finished up our trimming. Didn't get to bed till like 1:30, and it was still 11. Sorry, I think it was a 1-2 handing, and we cooked ribs in 3 hours. I think we showed up to about 9:30, and I remember waking up at about 8:45, and I would have had about 30 missed phone calls from yourself and about 10 text messages, and we're like, "Oh, you boys know that there's a compound this weekend?"
Yeah.
And I still remember we finally got the taxi down there, and I remember walking through the pit yard, and everyone was cooking, and I reckon everyone was looking at us like, "Did these boys just sleep the whole way through the cook?" Everyone was just kept staring at us.
Well, I thought you'd slept in.
And we showed up, and then everyone come to let us know that we'd slept in and partied too hard, and then we were fine. We had everything buzzing on time. So, but it wasn't. We actually probably should have got up an hour early to get that pork on, because the pork wasn't quite ready by the time.
Hey, you did manage to pull Grand Champion off that one, didn't you?
We did.
Which, yeah, I mean, I'd like to think. I mean, we had some good cooks there, man. We had Barbecue War were absolutely on fire at that point. I believe they reserved it, but they don't get me wrong.
They got 3rd, I think.
Yeah, they're still on fire. I'm not trying to say they're not on, but they were winning everything, not nailed down. No, I don't. Was Trev even that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think Trev might have been. That's where Trev. The French.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. I think even Adam Roberts came to that one.
Yeah, Piggy cooked in that one. I think we were first. Trev was second. Barbecue War was third. I remember Rum and Q getting a few call outs.
Yeah, I mean, for those interested, you can
go.
go to the New Zealand Barbecue Alliance page and look up that one. It was called Big Boys Toys, and it would have been about in October, November of 2018.
I think the worst part about that is that the trophy that Luke had arranged for that weekend was literally 2 meters tall.
It was like, it was like a single-story building.
And we had to carry that through the airport. And I remember carrying it to the airport, and everyone was coming up to us and like, "What did you boys win?" We're like, "A barbecue comp." They just stare at us, look at this giant trophy, just trying to comprehend it for a barbecue comp.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I remember you got those big American styles. Those are cool. So you did pretty well at that one. I remember because we'd showed up and we'd set up next to each other, and I think that was really the first time I got to cook next to you guys. And what I noticed at that cook was just you guys just had a rhythm, and I was like, man, these guys, they just have this tango between their team where they don't interfere with each other. Like I remember watching James just build his parsley boxes where you and Juzzy were mucking around, and I remember thinking, man, these guys have this dance that they do where they sort of stay out of each other's way, but they can somehow pull it all together, and everybody's at the right place at the right time. And I think that's what really first opened my eyes to what a team could become.
Like Juzzy and I, obviously, we started Smokeface together with the two other guys who aren't in the team anymore. We've cooked pretty much from day dot, pretty much together, practiced together, cooked parties together. Juzzy and I literally know each other back to front. And with that, James come on board. And I guess the beauty of the combination is that Juzzy and I do like to get quite loose at a comp. Probably an understatement. We let our hair down.
Trashed, I think is the. You're not quite natural born grillers, but you're not damn far from it, right? I mean, natural born grillers do this. They take it to another level, but yeah, you guys have definitely got something special going on.
And then obviously James actually likes to get to bed early. We call James the old man. He's about 10 years older than us.
Oh, but look, he also gets up first and puts everything on.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the combination. And we got Chris now, and James and Chris are a little partnership. James likes to bully him around like we used to bully James around, and them two get up, and usually they get up when Justin and I go to bed. We go to sleep.
They do, literally.
Yeah.
I think at the long room comp, you guys came in at about 4 a.m. maybe?
Yeah.
4 a.m. Right. I think. And then James is like, I think he was actually getting up when... no, actually, I think he left him. I think one of you were there, but not both, or I can't remember. It was very close anyway.
Yeah, the long room was
freaking ridiculous.
That was like handings though. Like handings.
I mean, we sent our best man Mike Lettingham, who knows all of the hospo joints in Auckland, and we gave him a credit card and said, "Take them out." And I didn't mean just take them out. I mean take them out. You guys came in grand champion that one too.
Yeah, with Juzzy and I spent half the day trying to find the will to live in that comp. So.
It was a tough one, but it was fun because I think is that the one? No, I think Adam.
That's when Adam had the Traeger. He lit the Traeger on fire.
Oh, that's right. They caught the Traeger on fire. Yeah, that's right. It was a good one.
The brand new Traeger.
But I think Matt Flanagan must have come second, and we come third. I think, and because your thing was, maybe we can talk about this. Was if we hadn't come, you would have reserved. But I was just like, well. Jye thought he'd be a smart ass and say if they hadn't have come, we would have come second, right? Because we come third and they come first. But I said back to him because I'm a lot more philosophical. But what I said back to you was no, we would have come like eighth because, and this is going back to what we talked about earlier, was that being around good cooks makes you cook better, not because you're shigging, but because you're able to feed off their energy or their precision. I mean, when we just cooked meat stock, just gone with Broham next to us, in our whole row, we had more better, we had Broham, we had Brendan, we had Trev. I mean, we had a whole row of, more better,
wasn't it?
plus the superstars. So I'm just like, man, how can you not cook well when your whole row's just stacked full of great cooks? You know.
I think the top four that weekend were all from in the same row, weren't they? There was us.
There was the top five because we come fifth.
We only got fourth.
Yeah, I think the Four Saucemen come ahead of us.
They came third. Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
oh, third.
But they were the only one that wasn't on our row. So I mean, it was just a phenomenal weekend. And what I'm trying to do is drive home my point that in order to become a really good barbecuer, you don't go around shigging off people, but you actually just feed off their energy and their ideas and their enthusiasm and their precision and their preparation. And I think cooking next to Brendan, he's a really precise cook.
We had four good, and we all know each other fairly well. Like, there's Brendan, there was Trev, there was Dan and myself, there's Bro, him, and you guys, and you had Shet down him.
Yeah.
For the majority, Dan, that was the first time that a lot of you guys had met Dan, but Dan's a pretty easygoing guy when he smiles.
I heard he's the second grumpiest guy in barbecue.
He's the grumpiest. Don't worry about that.
Nah, bro, not when I'm around.
Oh, mate.
You can check with Shane.
KFC in your car.
Yeah, well, we won't bring that up because that one still might be sore about that. Just say you'll be walking home next time.
Hey, you're the one who forced us to go back that night, if you remember. I was really at the party. But we all got along really well. And we actually spent the whole weekend, like, we'd just be communicating, talking. I guess the one thing you get when you cook a lot of comps is that you're not focusing on the cook so much. There's a lot of standing around time. And in that standing around time, like, we had a beer with Shet and you guys, and we had a beer with Trev would come across and Brendan would come across, and it was a real relaxed atmosphere. We'd all just talk. You really engross yourself on the weekend, and I guess that's a big part of it. It's just really trying to make the most of the time instead of, I guess, a lot of the rookie teams and a lot of the newer teams are like opening the pit, checking things, checking that, checking temps, checking this. And I guess that's probably one thing about partying is if you party too hard, you're fighting for the will to live instead of doing the cook. And when you're doing that, you're letting the cook happen. You actually let the cook happen instead of instead of you interfering with it.
Yeah, there's definitely some. I mean, it's a balance, right? And I tend to, I'm up one end. I guess I don't enjoy it enough. Too focused, and then you've got someone down the other end who's like just partying hard and doesn't focus at all. So I think it's definitely a balancing act. Some of the people I've barbecued with, like I've barbecued with Tuffy a couple of times, and he's ultra focused. I mean, he doesn't drink on the job or nothing. So it's I guess that's rubbed off on me a little bit, and I tend to stay focused at the
But in saying that, like, how many times have you actually seen us had a beer during a cook? We don't drink during the cook. We party prior, we party afterwards. We never party through the cook.
For sure. I just think of those. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, whatever works for your team. You guys have obviously got a rhythm, and you've got some limitations that seem to work.
Well, at the end of the day, it's still a competition, and you're there to win, and you spend the money, and you still try to win. And we try and have as much fun around the hours of when it's serious. And when it's serious, we're serious. Anyone who's probably kept next to Smokeface at a comp probably knows that Justin and I are prone to having tantrums and things aren't going very well. Probably more me. Justin throws good ones as well, and James cops the brunt of them.
I do feel sorry for James. I mean, I've cooked with you guys at the Royal, and there's a few moments where things were pretty tense. I thought, right, is this going to be the end of barbecue? Or but you pull it together, and you might be a bit. I don't know. I think one of the problems for you guys is, and I've raised this with you, is you guys are too used to winning. So what happens is when you're used to winning, and you guys have done phenomenally well. What happens is there has to be some level of hope. You guys go to a comp, you hope to come GC, and you realistically think you might. Whereas I guess we're still in that spot, and we've been very, very blessed and very lucky as of late. But I never go to a comp. Like I remember in year one, you used to hope you'd get call-ups, but I just learned to just release that expectation, because it was just like, man, this is all I can do is put my best food in that box and hope for the best.
Well, the thing is that we've all started somewhere, and Juzzy and I say Juzzy and I because James came towards the latter end of this stage, we really toiled hard. We got a bit lucky. So our first comp was a KCBS comp for Melbourne Barbecue Festival. That wasn't the first comp we registered. The first comp we decided to cook at was when Port Macquarie was around the Easter weekend.
Have you and Juzz already cooked? Have you guys always cooked together, you and him? I mean, have you been Smokeface Grillahs right from day one, or did you ever cook with another team?
Nah, we've been Smokeface. We've been Juzzy and I are the two remaining members of our original team. So our original team had two of my very good friends in it, and Blake probably kicked around for 2 years. But Blake's someone who doesn't know what a condom is and decided to have 4 children and really.
I don't think we need to run down Blake while he's not here. You know, I don't think that's called for.
Hey, he did marry my cousin. I can give him as much as I want.
Right.
So nah. So Blake's got a demanding young family at that stage, and Blake also works a lot of weekends. So he stuck around for about 2.5 years. John lasted a year. Didn't even finish out the first year. And by our 4th comp, sent Justin and I a message and said, "You two boys are taking this too seriously. I can't get on the same level as you guys, and I feel like if I'm not on the same level, then there's no point in me doing it. I'm just going to hold you back." And he stepped aside. So
does that mean you guys were always looking to do well at comps and whatnot? I mean, have you always been ultra competitive?
Justin and I, where we probably get a lot of our similarities from, is I played every sport known to man growing up, and I'd always succeeded. I've won a premiership in every sport I've ever played. I've won a trophy in every sport I've ever played. And Justin played competitive basketball a lot, very good basketball player, very, very competitive person as well. And so by nature, we're very competitive people. Funny enough, John's was one of the best basketballers in just about the state growing up, but probably was more interested in smoking cones than what he was playing basketball for a lot of it. And John does things John runs on his own wavelength. Like, John's one of the best blokes you'll ever meet. But John's John, and Justin and I were on this highly competitive wavelength, and he just couldn't buy into it. It was like we were pretty full on. We were talking barbecue back and forth probably every day, and we spoke every day for 2 years. In reality, now I look back at it, Blake was like the original James per se, but Blake was our handyman. Blake comes from a construction background. He used to just tinker setting up the setups, and he helped me build our first 2 pits. He's probably, as I said, he married my cousin, so he's not only one of my best mates, his family now, so I still see him a fair bit to this day. But yeah, obviously he fell out, but James come on towards the end. So when we first started our first KCBS comp, I think it was 42 teams there, and we finished, I think, 17th, which wasn't a bad showing. And the next comp we went to was one in Orange, and I look back at it now, and there were some of the best teams in the country there. And Double Barrel took out the GC that weekend, and for our first ABA comp, we got 2 third places. It was only a 4-category comp. There was no lamb, and we got 2 third places. 2 third places and a 4th place. And when you look back at it, we only needed a 250 in chicken to win GC, and we come dead last in chicken. It's what Justin would have referred to as, I think we called them badminton balls. That's how they were. That you could literally have thrown them at a wall, and the wall would have fallen down before they broke.
Yeah, right.
They were tough. That's when I called Justin the anchor that weekend, because he held us back as a joke when we were pretty drunk. Afterwards, we were partying pretty hard.
I will concede this, that you guys are one of the most brutal team after a comp to assign it quickly and as savagely as possible. So I have experienced that, and
it's all good.
I don't find it productive myself. But damn, you guys are pretty savage when it comes to post comp blame, and
it's all in good fun.
Yeah.
But
I'm not criticising it, because, like I said, you guys also, I'd love to just film you guys, or I don't know, I'd love to just, I have been a fly on the wall, and your cooks have just, watching you guys cook together and work together is just something to be seen. It's just, to me, it's just one of the things that makes Smokeface great, a great team. And I've cooked with a few teams, and there's always something just discombobulated in the team, but you guys just have this tango that just works, and it's, it's savage at times, and it's you guys, you like to walk up to the edge of a cliff and walk yourself back and all of those things.
That's me.
But whatever you guys do, however irrational it seems at times, you guys just manage to pull it out. Like, it's just
half the fun sledging your mates on the way there, mate. That's all it's about. We sledge each other pretty hard, and it's all done in good fun. Sometimes it does go too far. James has quit the team more times than I'd like to, or Nelly quit the team.
Look, I don't blame him, bro. I don't blame him,
It always comes around the time of a GC, like that first one to New Zealand. Our flight got delayed about 6 times, and I think Justin and I had about 9 pints by the time the plane left, and we were just savagely ripping into him, and he's like, "I'll go home." We just kept laughing at him. The night we won the Invitational, he was booking flights home the next morning on the Saturday morning because we were partying pretty hard, and I guess that's the fun of it. Like, we look back now on some of the stories, like, as much as intense they were at times, they're pretty priceless. Like, you could write some of this stuff down, and they're pretty funny. But
so how many comps would you estimate you and Juzzy have done together?
Oh, I reckon we've done probably in the high 30s, low 40s. I reckon.
Yeah, it's a good haul.
And I reckon James would be probably in the high 20s, low 30s. That's about time when he come on board.
Yeah, right. I mean, you guys have been hugely successful as a team, and I haven't even begun. I don't want this to go as long as what some of the other podcasters, and the reason being because I want you to be a regular guest. That's what I was going to talk to you about earlier, because I think like you and I just talk barbecue all the time, and I don't. In fact, I don't think there's, maybe Trev is the only other person I talk barbecue. Well, Trev and Chet, I talk barbecue a lot because obviously it's work and play and everything. But we always bouncing ideas off each other, and just having cooked with you guys a few times, it's either you and Trev that I'm rooting for at prize giving. Just saying, come on, boys, bring it home. So I want to have you guys. I want to have you on the show regularly because I do find, hey, why not hit record? So look, when are you looking at coming back over to New Zealand?
Well,
I mean, obviously we're in COVID lockdown, but all things being equal, you're eyeing up any comps in New Zealand?
Well, in Victoria, we're in like the what I'd call the Nazi state of COVID lockdowns in Australia. So,
mate, you should come try being in New Zealand, mate. We're level 3.99999. Level 3.9 is the same as level 4, except KFC's open.
Yeah, but at least your ministers can go for a bike ride,
that is true. Yeah, that's true. You can only just go to KFC, move house, go biking, or go to the beach.
Well, funnily enough, that's pretty much like we can work, we can get food, and we're pretty much living at home.
Yeah, right.
It's
how your wife's putting up with it, I don't know.
I think my wife enjoys me being away more than what I probably enjoy being away sometimes. I'm probably starting to get under her skin a little bit at the moment.
I can imagine.
It's funny. I guess the funny thing is that there's one thing that's probably saved me this, and as stupid as it is, I'm reliving my youth by playing Call of Duty online. And here's an example for you. So I got Dan Barrett, Big Smoke. He's like, you don't understand my addiction. You don't understand my addiction. If you know Dan, if you ever get to chat to him, Dan has the biggest competitive drive you've ever met. You have ever solely met. He literally cooks barbecue 3-4 nights a week, practicing for comps.
Good man.
A week, like just hammers it out, just constantly 24/7 barbecue. So right now we're not competing, but we're playing Call of Duty online. And instead of him ringing me up to talk about barbecue like you and I do, he rings me up to talk about Call of Duty and what he thinks his thoughts of Call of Duty. It's like the dude doesn't know how to just relax.
Yeah, it's always 110%. Look, well, I've only met Dan recently. I don't know actually if I'd met him previously. Like Smokeface met him, but I obviously got introduced to him through you, and he, I think he's. I mean, can you think of anyone else who's cooked more overseas than Dan?
He'd probably be leading the pack. Him and Sterling.
He's cooked all the big ones.
Sterling's,
what I mean is, is there another Australian team that's done more overseas cooking than him?
Oh,
think you'd be hard pressed, right?
You're very hard pressed.
I mean, he's done the Royal 2 or 3 times. He's done, California. He's, we'll get him on. We'll get him on the show. I really like him. He's ultra competitive, and I've only got to know him recently through you guys. First at the Royal in September, and then met him at the, got to spend a little bit more time getting to know him up at the Invitational that Black Bear Barbecue did, and then obviously he came to New Zealand, and he's become, we even call each other every now and then, so it's good.
Yeah, Dan is literally someone who's 24/7 barbecue. He works for Boss Hog, the Dutch air support, bringing in all rubs, sauces, constantly cooking, constantly talking. That's probably turned into 80% Call of Duty for him at the moment. But he's someone who literally lives and breathes it. He's got more connections to overseas than anyone I know, puts himself out there, messages overseas people. And if he gets his head around doing something, he's going to do it. Like he did the Houston, he's done the Royal. He literally will compete anywhere, anytime, and on anything. And
yeah, he's one of those guys that's very comfortable cooking out of a suitcase.
And he's legit probably one of the best cooks in Australia. Like they did win the 2017 champs, but mate, he'll fly into some. In fact, at one stage, he'd won more GCs cooking on pits that weren't his own. So, and I think that means something because you get very comfortable in your own setup. And as you know, it's very hard cooking out of a suitcase. It's not the easiest of things. And when you start becoming comfortable with it becomes like, I guess it becomes.
I've seen his suitcase, and it's not like a normal person who cooks out of a suitcase. I mean, he's got like little baggies full of rubs with the liquids all measured out, and he's got everything ready to go. Yeah, like literally just tip it in a cup and shake it up, and it's good to go.
On the way to New Zealand, he drops off his stuff and says, "I got my bags full. Can you pack these in your bags?" And has all these white little bags of powder stuffed in containers. Yeah. And I'm like, as soon as I open, I'm like, I'm going to get fingered at the airport. There's 100% chance I'm getting fingered at the airport. I carry these bags. He stitched me up here. But there wasn't a single question. Like you would have thought if out of any bags I've ever taken overseas that the other ones are going to be checked. And
briskets and I can't. Yeah, I'll get him on the show. I mean, for those who don't know, Dan Barrett from Big Smoke, he's now that's not Big Smoke Canada. It's Big Smoke Victoria. So actually, we'll get him on and we'll talk to him a little bit. As well. Yes, we do actually. It's not Big Smoke Tauranga. So to answer my question, you seem to be evading my question. When are the Smokeface Grillahs or Brohim planning on making a big comeback? Another visit to New Zealand?
Well, we were meant to do the long room as Smokeface. Mm-hmm. And if the long room still goes ahead and we're able to fly, I reckon as Smokeface that we will do the long room.
Okay, cool. You hear that, Luke? You hear that, Luke Sini? Let's get that long room comp bump moved, whatever. Let's get the date bumped.
I'm pretty sure as a reigning champs we get automatic entry. Fingers crossed. I think that rule still applies.
I believe that rule does still apply, yep. I believe the reserve and the grand champs get automatic entry. And I think you've got a meat voucher from Ruben still.
Yeah, we still have that kicking about somewhere. I think this year we'll definitely do Barbecue Mania. I reckon Smokeface will make it across the dish for Barbecue Mania.
Well, okay. Well, I've heard that before, so I'm not going to comment on that.
Oh, that's because you moved your comp 7 times last year.
Just once.
Mate, there was more than once. I think you gave me about 3 different dates.
It conflicted with the jack, so we had to bump it, and that is what it is, mate.
You bumped it next to the Invitational here, so we just spent 4 weeks partying overseas in America. After the Royal, and then flew home, and then the last thing I was going to do was head to New Zealand and back for 2 weeks away doing comps. But
look, bro, it's not my problem that your wife doesn't understand, bro. I mean, you got to just get her to see it. I mean, I cooked the Royal with you, I cooked the Jack over there, and then I did Barbecue Mania as well. So it's just about finding someone who's supportive of your hobby.
Oh, look, she'll be supportive. I just don't know if my keys will be very supportive when I go to open the door on the way back.
Yeah, well. Hey, again. So look, guys, for those listening in the audience, Barbecue Mania. If you're looking at competing at Barbecue Mania this year in Hamilton, we're currently looking at dates sometime in November, potentially early October. Late October. There's a lot of comps that have been shuffled around as part of COVID-19. But we are looking to lock in a date and start collecting, start getting sponsors on board. We still have to work those details out.
Wait for Jared to set a date and then move it twice and then book it in from there.
Yeah, no, well, I don't think there'll be any moving this year because just with everything being the way it is, it's going to be tight. The other thing is I've got someone who's going to promote that independent of me. That therefore allowing me to both compete at my own comp and also to compete at the Jack if we happen to go to the Jack again. We are in the ballot, so look, if you get to go to cook at the Jack, you go and cook at the Jack, don't you? So
yeah, that's I think there's three in the world. There's probably four really. You do Memphis MA, you do Houston, you do the Jack, and you do the Royal. But the Jack's probably the king because it's the hardest to get into. Well, probably that in Houston in reality. The Houston's probably just as hard to get into as well. So you'll do that every time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference is that you'd go to any of them. I think Kansas is the one that's sort of the easiest to get into in terms of. I mean, you just have to win but you have to win a grand championship that's sanctioned. And you also can just invite yourself to the Open. So that's relatively straightforward if you want to go cook that. Houston, the difficulty of getting into Houston is the problem is there's not many spots. So they only have about 7 international teams, and New Zealand ain't one of them.
Apparently the waiting list is stupid long to get there as well.
Oh, if you want a site at Houston, I believe there's like a 5-year waiting list. So it's like ridiculous. So the best hope you've got is winning and getting balloted. So I think you're probably right. I mean, at least with the Jack, I guess you've got the same odds, don't you? You get drawn out of Australia for either. So
you've got to win a GC in KCBS in Australia, obviously get the bung in the Jack. And KCBS has been probably a rarity. ABA has been the dominant scene in Australia. But
I thought they had reciprocating agreements with the Jack for as long as it didn't have lamb in it.
I think they did, but until I'm not sure if it still stands with the KCBS taking off in Australia a little bit now. So I don't know where that sits.
Look, I don't know either, but we'll confirm with Adam. But I guess for New Zealand we get a ballot. So anyone who wins a grand championship, or I believe Barbecue War competed last year because they were basically going to be the national champions, or they did end up winning it, or I don't know how it works. I believe they got balloted from their win in Wellington anyway, but we're hoping to get balloted this year, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it might be canned altogether under the current lockdown and spread of disease and whatnot. So
I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to do trans-Tasman travel, I guess, but it'd be interesting to see when the American lift up. Let's go, because obviously they've got more people there, so it'll be obviously a bigger problem to try and keep it, but it'd be interesting to see when the borders open up.
Yeah, now there was talk of you guys coming to Napier. Is that still on the cards, or is that Brohim, or is that just you? Or?
That's Brendan's at West Shore, is it?
Yeah, well, the West Shore, he was going to have the Kingsford Invitational, but naturally with the dates being, like COVID, it's been amalgamated into a single comp.
So that's been registered as Dan and I as Brohim. So
cool.
At this stage, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we'll come back over. So hopefully you'll see my lovely face 3 times by the end of the year.
Well, that'll be something to prepare myself for. And tell me, obviously, meat stock's been bumped for the year. Like they're looking at rescheduling and all that. To talk to Jay about it, but obviously the meat stock comps were the ones to come to for Kiwis looking to go trans-Tasman. Excuse me. Oh. Tell me, if I was to come and compete in Victoria, if there was, say, one comp that you said that would be the one to come and do, like it's the most fun or the most special outside of meat stock, what would you say would be the one to come to?
If you want to really get a taste of what I'd call the rural comp scene in Australia, then you should come into Victoria. Rob Ewer runs a comp in Horsham called Meat Meat. Rob's probably one of the most relaxed promoters that you've ever come across. Used to compete. Real down to earth guy. He's one of the great guys at barbecue, and let's just say that we get to on the Friday night there, it's a real party. Like it goes stupid wild on the Friday night. So we are pretty much in a paddock in the middle of nowhere, and it gets absolutely loose on the Friday, and then everyone knuckles in for Saturday, Sunday on the comps. If you wanted to get around and meet people and catch up, that's probably the comp. I think Kelly or Luke here, he's going to run a KCBS comp on. I think he's looking at doing a double header potentially, but it's a KCBS comp on Cup Day here, which is a Tuesday. That's if you wanted to give KCBS a run. But at this stage, like, I'd probably have no confidence in what comps are coming back at this stage this year. If everything goes ahead, I reckon Horsham will probably run. But look, by the time it opens up, you could see a few more comps pop up. I know that Mick Tyrrell from Full Throttles talked about running a comp if it all opens up. If we know Mick, that'll be as about extravagant as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're like, obviously there'll be some new promoters that come in, there'll be some old promoters that go out, and there'll be some that stay around. And they have talked to Jye, and they're obviously looking at meat stock for next year. I don't know, like, what the current setup is. Maybe go read the press release.
Well, they postponed that. So this is the funny part. So they postponed meat stock till August, but then the Melbourne show, which runs out of the same venue, was canned, and that's in September. So reading the cards, that tells me that. Well,
look, you got to remember, and I was on the ground reporting live at the time. Meat Stock Melbourne, when it got canned, I mean, we were literally, I was cooking barbecue to feed to the masses when it got canned. I had, what were you cooking, pork bellies or something? I mean, we had freaking 200 kilograms of pork belly in the pit when it got canned. So it was one of those things where it was moving very rapidly. It was unimaginable when I landed that the thing would be the event would be cancelled, and by the end of it, we're just trying to get home before the midnight deadline, and so things evolved very quickly. And for Jye and the team, I think, you know, at that point it was just trying to get whatever information they could. So it very well may have changed since the announcement that happened, and it may even be dumped for the year, but just because of the nature of the lockdown and how severe it's got.
It was a funny time that weekend because obviously meat stock being canned, and you really feel for Jye and you feel for Luke. I mean, Simon. Yeah, you feel for the two of them and everyone else who, like,
for who?
Rob
Luke,
Freight.
Simon.
I mean Simon. Yeah, Simon. It's what happens when you have two names.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I know a guy, Derek Paul, like that. I mean, it's confusing on a good day.
Yeah.
You might put him under Paul or under Derek.
Pick your last name.
You know.
So you've obviously not just those guys. It really probably hurt, like the Rob Thraves of the world, and you had Black Iron and those guys.
Oh yeah, I mean,
come down from Sydney, but like you take away that from it, and it was actually quite a fun weekend because we had what I'd call the anti-launch party at the Q Club, and that got pretty loose. That was a whole lot of fun that night.
No, I think you got pretty loose. The party wasn't that loose. You were freaking loose at that one.
There was a few of us that were pretty loose, but look, I don't think I had top honors, but I was pretty close. So a few of us had a lot of fun there. We actually got to catch up with people. That was the first time I met Stacey, obviously from New Zealand, and who I think's the COVID MVP.
Shout out to Stacey, a legend.
Yeah, and I think you're the COVID MVP cook at this stage too.
He's well, look, I mean, he's at the fire station just cooking all day. I mean, those firemen are going to be fat asses by the time they leave lockdown, because he's barbecuing up a storm and making barbecues in Santa Maria's. And
so if you're in Auckland, don't live on the top story because they're not getting up the stairs.
Yeah. Hey, if you're around the Manukau fire station, just, mate, buy some extra insurance, because I'm not sure those firemen are coming.
I'll look for a ground level apartment, nothing with stairs. He's been, so I met Stacey and I met a few other guys, obviously, that I wouldn't have got to know, and had a few drinks with it. Like, it was a funny weekend. Like, it was, as sad as it was, the community kind of got around each other and probably got to know each other a bit better, and you got to do things that you wouldn't regularly get to do. Some of the interstate and international guys got around to a few of the Melbourne barbecue scenes and had a few beers here and there, obviously, and caught up. And then we had the rush of trying to deliver you safely home, so you didn't have to be locked away for 2 weeks.
Show you, what a legend. That was clutch.
It was a pretty stressful time because
very stressful. Yeah, it was. But that's the community spirit. I mean, with the barbecue community, there's just so many good fellas that you come across and just, oh man, lifelong friends, you know. And I played a little bit of sport, and obviously I went to high school and whatnot, and people that I've met in barbecuing are just phenomenal people for some reason.
Well, that's the thing, is that that's what I say to people, like, you kind of engross yourself in with what your hobby is at a time to some extent, but you meet people in barbecue that you never would have had the chance to meet and obviously become friends with. Like yourself and myself, we're in 2 different countries, probably would never have run into each other and probably talk to each other, best, like really close mates, talk all the time, have a really close bond. And same with Shet. I met Shet through you. Speak to him from Houston. Like, these are people that you would never have met through barbecue, and you've got a common interest. And
look, I mean,
these guys.
I knew people overseas, but like you go and do a comp together, you're like sleeping in the same bed sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like you do have to let down your inhibitions and you just get on with it because you're there for a common goal. And obviously there's nothing more heartbreaking than having a good cook and coming dead last. And there's nothing more joyous in terms of like doing a tough cook and then getting a good result together. And you're just like, wow, this is awesome, you know? Like you're there for each other, you know. It's bloody brilliant.
Yeah. We've had the fun of sharing your bed. You with your Tourette's and then doing dancing in your sleep.
I was just trying to fend you off. I was just there trying to fend you off, bro. We'll get into that on another episode. So you hear it first, guys. Look, we're going to wrap up here because Jye's going to be a regular guest on the show, but we want to, I don't know, we're just rambling now, which is how most of our conversations go. But look, you heard it first. So guys, Smokeface Grillahs coming to the long room, Smokeface Grillahs coming to Barbecue Mania 3, and Broheen, Big Smoke Barbecue, that's Victoria, and Jye from Smokeface Grillahs coming to the West Shore Beach, and those are going to be 3 massive comps. Everybody's going to be chomping at the bit to compete by the time we come out of COVID. And, you know, I've learned a huge amount off this guy, and so if you see him at a comp, grab him and get him to taste your food, because I think the one thing about Jye is he's got a palate like no other in terms of being able to pick a profile, being able to find the balance, and being able to score the texture. So I guess we'll wrap it up there. I know we could go on for another couple of hours, but I want to cut it short, leave people hanging for more or less, as the case may be.
I'm getting messages from Dan about not being on Call of Duty. See?
Yeah. Well, there you go. So shout out to Call of Duty. So we'll knock it off there, guys. And if you don't mind giving us a like, giving us a thumbs up on YouTube, and subscribing to Project Barbecue, Jared McDonald, just so we can get a few more people. I mean, that doesn't really matter if you do or don't. We're still going to make these videos, but it kind of goes out to our sponsors who we both use heat beads. I guess we could have got into the merits of heat beads, but maybe we'll do that a different time. So guys, give us a share, give us a like if you don't mind, and we'll see you at the next episode. This is episode 4. Signing out.
Thank you.
Peace out.